Ever get that feeling like you're talking to someone and you just, you sense there's something more there, something hidden beneath the surface?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, buckle up, because today we're diving into a topic that's all about those hidden depths. Personality disorders.
Right.
Specifically, psychopathy and narcissism.
Yeah.
You sent over some research on their connection, and let me tell you, it gets, well, interesting to say the least.
It does. These two, they're often mentioned together. Psychopathy and narcissism, almost like rivals in the world of psychology.
Rivals. I like that.
Yeah. But this study we're looking at, it doesn't shy away at all. It jumps right in, trying to untangle that connection.
Okay, see, and that's what I love about these deep dives. We get to really untangle these complicated topics. One thing that gets me is how often we see psychopathy, narcissism thrown around in movies, TV shows. But do those portrayals really represent the reality? I don't know.
No, not always. And that's where this study, it throws a curveball right off the bat. See, we usually picture psychopaths as, well, criminals, right?
Right, yeah.
But clinically speaking, it's way more nuanced than that.
Okay, so nuance. Break it down for me. What are we really talking about here?
So the study, it highlights two distinct categories within
Yeah.
psychopathy itself.
Yeah.
Imagine it like two sides of the same coin, maybe. One side, it's all about selfish, callous, and remorseless use of others. And this side aligns a lot with what we see in narcissism, grandiosity, manipulation, lack of empathy.
Okay, yeah. Now that you mention it, those traits do sound very familiar. So what about that other side of the psychopathy coin then? What's that all about?
So the flip side, that's more about a chronically unstable and antisocial lifestyle. Think impulsive actions, breaking rules like they're just suggestions, zero regard for consequences.
Ah, okay. So less mastermind, more like living on the edge, maybe?
Exactly. And here's the thing. Both of these categories, they can and often do overlap in individuals who are diagnosed with psychopathy. It's not a one or the other situation.
So more like a Venn diagram.
Precisely. Now, when we talk about diagnosing psychopathy, it gets even more interesting.
Oh, do tell. You know I love this stuff.
Okay, so traditionally, there have been two main paths to a psychopathy diagnosis. One, it goes way back to Hervey Cleckley. He wrote the book, well, more like the Bible, on psychopathy, the mask of sanity.
Yeah, I've heard of that one.
His approach, it's about looking at the whole picture, the full buffet of psychopathic traits, how they interact with others, their emotions, behaviors. It's like piecing together a puzzle, not just looking at one piece.
Right. So understanding the why behind the what.
Exactly. Then you have the other approach. This one's heavily influenced by the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, the DSM for short.
Right, the DSM.
That one's more about show me, don't tell me. It zeroes in on those observable antisocial behaviors. Did they steal? Did they lie? The thinking is, it's hard to really get a handle on grandiosity or lack of empathy directly. So let's look at the behaviors.
Two different roads, but maybe leading to the same destination.
Well, that's the thing. Both paths, they have their bumps.
Okay, I see where you're going with this. So what does this study say about how we should be approaching diagnosis then?
Well, this study really pushes for a combined approach. Imagine it like this. You really get to know the person, their past, talk to those who know them well, observe them in their environment, if possible. They even developed this tool called the Psychopathy Checklist Revised, or the PCLR, to help clinicians navigate this.
And the PCLR, this isn't just some online quiz, right? This is a serious tool.
Oh, absolutely. The PCLR is specifically designed for trained clinicians, especially in forensic settings. It takes into account a wide range of traits and behaviors. Now, there is a screening version used in more general populations, which can be helpful for studying these traits in a broader sense. But
this is really making me rethink how we just throw around those terms, psychopath, narcissist, so casually. This is clearly a much more complex issue.
And that's exactly why understanding this research is so important. These aren't just labels, they're intricate disorders. And to really grasp them, we need to put in the work and understand those nuances.
It's like we're peeling back the layers of an onion here,
Right.
And each layer reveals even more complexity.
Exactly.
But let's get to the heart of it. How does narcissism actually fit into this whole puzzle of psychopathy?
Ah, the million-dollar question. This study really goes down a few rabbit holes, but one of the most interesting has to do with the internal structure of psychopathic traits.
Okay, internal structure. Break that down for me.
Imagine you're dissecting these personality traits under a microscope, right?
Mm.
So when researchers study all these different psychopathic traits, they find they tend to clump together into two main groups, kind of like magnets drawn to each other.
Okay, I'm following. Tell me about these groups.
One group, it's all about that selfish, callous, and remorseless use of others we talked about.
Right.
And guess what? It lines up perfectly with what we see in, you guessed it, narcissism.
It's like that aha moment, right? Those manipulative tendencies, they're not just limited to one disorder.
You got it. The other group, that's more about the impulsive, antisocial lifestyle, like that rebellious teenager who never really grew up, always breaking rules, consequences.
Yeah,
what consequences?
Right. So it's like two sides of the same coin, two ways this underlying predisposition can express itself.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting. That first group, the using others for personal gain group, it's not just found in people diagnosed with psychopathy. Researchers are finding it in studies on personality traits in the general population, too.
Wait, hold on. So those traits, the ones we associate with, like criminal masterminds, they could be present in everyday people.
Well, maybe not, everyone.
Right.
But you see what I mean? It's like this research is saying those traits, they might be more common, less black and white than we think. It's not just about who has them, who doesn't. It's more like, to what degree are they there?
Okay, that is a bit of a mind bender. It's like this study is uncovering something that's been hiding in plain sight.
And that leads to a pretty big question.
Hit me with it.
If a core part of psychopathy, that selfish, callous use of others, if that's also a big part of narcissism, are we underestimating just how common these, certain psychopathic tendencies might be in society as a whole?
Whoa. Okay, so we're not just talking about who is or isn't diagnosable. We're talking about these traits potentially existing on a spectrum. Some people higher, some lower.
Exactly. It challenges how we see things. We tend to think, psychopathy, that's way out there, this extreme. But what if it's more intertwined with our personalities than we realize?
It's like realizing the monster we fear in the dark. Maybe it's lurking in our own reflection a bit.
Right.
Definitely makes you think.
It does.
But if these two disorders are so closely related, how do we tell them apart? How do we know if we're dealing with a narcissist versus a psychopath?
Now those are the right questions.
Yeah.
And that, my friend, that is where the devil is in the details.
Okay, so we've said narcissism and psychopathy, maybe not as different as we thought.
Right.
But how do we actually tell them apart then? Where's that line?
That's the thing, right. While both narcissists and psychopaths can be manipulative, lack empathy, psychopathy, it goes deeper,
Deeper? What do you mean?
Okay, think of it like this.
Okay.
Someone with strong narcissistic traits, they might break your heart.
Wow.
Self-centered, no empathy.
Right.
A psychopath that might not even, I don't even register that they hurt you. Emotional detachment is on a whole other level.
So it's like narcissism is obsessed with the mirror, but psychopathy doesn't even see a reflection?
Perfect way to put it. And this difference, this emotional depth thing, it shows up in other ways too. The study mentions how psychopathy, it often involves this real difficulty with thinking long-term, planning, and total disregard for consequences.
Yeah.
Two things. Your average narcissist, they might still get that, even if they don't always act like it.
So narcissist may be obsessed with their image now, instant gratification, but a psychopath might burn it all down, no problem.
Exactly. And we can't forget another big difference. Cruelty. Look, not all psychopaths are violent, but the study points out there's often this sadistic edge to psychopathy that you don't always see with narcissism. It's like they get something out of other people's pain,
Yeah, that's a bit chilling, not gonna lie. But we're not trying to demonize anyone here, right? This is about understanding, even if it's uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Not about labeling people. It's about knowledge. Recognizing those signs. Understanding what the risks might be.
Because let's be real, we've all probably met someone where we thought, something's not right, haven't we? This research helps explain why.
Exactly. And hopefully we can make better choices, who we let in our lives, how we interact. Knowledge is power.
It really is. This has been fascinating, and I gotta admit, a bit unsettling too. Makes you think twice about things.
For sure.
But isn't that what we're here for? To learn, even if it's a bit uncomfortable sometimes.
100%. Embracing the complexity, right? The good, the bad, and the in-between.